I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, December the 29th, brought to you in part by RealMax Herd Health Program that pays. Results include 3 to 10% increase in conception rates, 10 to 40 pound increase in weaning weights, and the biggest one, in my opinion, 15 to 30% forage and hay savings. Bring profits back to ranching with RealMax. Big New Year's push here, and we're seeing the push that we've been talking about, and I've been telling you guys I was expecting after the new year. We're seeing it after Christmas here. But your markets, your traded markets, were all higher on Monday here to start out a new week, and really a lot of us, not on paper, we're kind of considering this into the next year after we get off of Christmas here. But we've had a really big push here, and we're expecting it to continue as we go forward. We got the results from last week's fat cattle market, which we knew was quite a bit higher, and it ended up being a lot higher because we had so many fewer off-market sales. It was kind of a condensed trade there, so guys didn't have time to sell cattle off the market. It was just a few weak sisters last Tuesday that sold cattle steady or close to what they'd gotten the week before, and then didn't get to take advantage of the big push that we had during a holiday week, which they probably weren't expecting it. And a lot of us thought we could trade steady and some higher, but we weren't expecting it to be as much higher as it was. And now we're going into this holiday week, and we're thinking it could be that much higher again, maybe, or maybe even more, who knows. But we're getting ready to go forward into 2021. We got high hopes. I tell you what, 2020 was a bust for so many things. But actually, if you look back, how much we've recovered from the initial COVID response when we saw the panic buying, the gouging by the packers. We saw your processing plants not able to run anywhere near capacity because they couldn't keep plant workers in there. You got to give it to them. They put in the safeguards, and they were able to get those things back going, and for the most part keep them going after they got everything set up. And we haven't seen them fall off in that. We've seen threats of it, which hurt our market, but we haven't really seen it fall off. But actually, as we went forward, our markets never really wavered all that much. Now your beef markets went up like crazy during the panic buying, and yes, cattle people didn't get a chance to take advantage of that, and your packers saw those monster profits. Well, they probably had the best year that they're ever going to have, because every time we're in some kind of a black swan market disaster, your packers end up reaping benefits of that. Well, I don't know how it could get any worse than what we had this past year, 2020. So that was likely going to be their best year, and indeed it was their best year for the most part. But a lot of guys, especially some of your cattle feeders, actually come out pretty good this year due to the CFAP money that come out, and is government assistance. But we're kind of seeing what your row crop farmers have been bragging about here for the last many years. The government, working for the government ain't all bad. I did it for 18 years, and I'm sure enjoying being, back into free market system here and for-profit organization. But actually the government really helped out here, and President Trump signed this latest COVID assistance deal, and more money yet going to come back out. And it's not just for people that's been laid off and cooped up there in their apartments in New York City. It's for everybody. And unless you make a lot of money, and then you're not going to get much money back. But President Trump wanted to get up to $2,000 from $600, but he went ahead and signed it. And now I guess some of the Democrats are going to try to make that happen, but we haven't seen the full results of that yet. But this last COVID relief bill includes several things in there. It includes yet more ag assistance money here. And you guys never thought you were going to get another check, but the way I read it, they're going to take into account the CARES Act, the CCC money, and CFAP 2 money, and then they're going to do a bunch of crazy math, and then it comes out, and and you can get even more money. And it looks like on fat cattle marketed, you can get up to 63 bucks a head. My gosh, you can hardly ever make that kind of money on fat cattle, let alone get a check on top to boot. But it's not going to help your cattle producers all that much, the ones that really probably need it more than anybody. But on feeder type cattle, those weighing over 600 pounds, looks like up to $25.50 per head. That would help out quite a bit for bigger producers. Now this is all capped at $250,000, which I think that's a good idea. Some of your bigger outfits don't think so, but this is for the smaller guys, and hopefully we'll keep as many of those in business as we can. But on mature slaughter cattle, on your out cows and things like that, up to $14.75, and then on calf producers, not a whole lot, but $7 a head. And then they said others, which I'm not sure what that would be, maybe some pasture art longhorns or something out there, I don't know, $17.25 for those. But still, yet more money coming in. But we're looking for better markets as we get into 2021. We saw a year ago our inventory report come out and said that we had kind of topped out, and we were going to be, we figured we were kind of teetering and going to be on the downhill side on supplies. Well, indeed, we figured out by the time we got to the mid-year report that, in fact, yeah, there was less cows out there, which led to less calves. And they were probably 6 months to a year behind on that reporting. Well, we're going to be looking forward to January here. We're going to have another inventory report, and so we should see our board responding positive to that. Those people that buy for the funds and those, they want hard evidence, and that comes from the USDA. It has to have that USDA letterhead at the top of it, and one of those reports that we rumble and talk about for a long time, and then all of a sudden one day they pull the sheet back and we get to see what it is. But that's what your outside the industry people want to see before they start really heavily investing. But we should be looking forward to a lighter inventory going forward here in our January report. So we'll see a big build up for that. That should be positive, and then the results of that should be good, because we've seen all fall here that we just have a lot fewer calves than what we thought we were going to have. Our auction receipts have been down quite a bit. We did recover some late, like in December there. Some people sold, and we saw a big run there mid-December there ahead of your holiday season there. But still, by the most part, our fall has been really light on receipts. So we know that there's fewer cows out there, and in fact more people took advantage of those higher slaughter cow markets that we saw there over the last year or so. And indeed, we go back a year and a half ago, there were more cows lost in those storms than what they give credit for too. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking forward to now. Talking about storms, we got another big storm coming to hit the Midwest and parts of your northern plains here coming in the next several days. And so guys are probably going to hold back a little bit selling cattle, on your finished market ready slaughter cattle that are sitting in the feedlots. Yeah, if they could get rid of them today or tomorrow, they would probably go ahead and sell them, but they're not going to be excited about selling cattle for a 7 to 10 or 14 day pickup and then losing all that weight on them and not able to get it back. And so they're probably going to be holding off a little bit, even though we saw that our show lists, and I don't take much stock in that, and I say that every week, but supposedly the show lists are a little bit heavier. Well, no duh, because we're coming out of a holiday week here, even though our holiday movement during Christmas week was bigger than we saw the previous 2 weeks. So a pretty good movement, negotiated cash sales out of your feedlots, and that was good. And we saw a higher market, and we saw your packers get fairly aggressive, and they didn't want to be short bought coming into this new year as they thought. And because they knew that we were going to be on an upswing, and they don't want to have to pay more for cattle. So we saw them get fairly aggressive, buy several cattle for a 2 to 4 week delivery. They're buying cattle, basis trade contract cattle. They're buying them almost a $2 premium to February, which is sitting up there several dollars higher than what we've been working with on December. So we've got some pretty positive things to look forward to as we go forward here. Let's talk about your board for last week. Look at December live cattle futures there. We see they were up 90 on Monday, closing at 113.05. So that's a pretty good kick there. Whenever our market last week was $1.10, and we're still trading on December here, but February, and that's the one I was telling you, they're buy some of these basis trades out front, and it's almost a $2 premium to that. And it was up 80 on Monday at 115.77. You put a couple more bucks on that, we're talking about a pretty good fat cattle market. Going forward from there, it was up 17 to up 55 cents on your far out fronts. Look at April out there sitting at 119.52. Been telling you guys that it really belonged to be at 120. We just haven't been able to get it back up there, but I'd say that's a pretty good target price for that all-important April up there, and it is going to give an opportunity for guys that bought some of the last yearlings that we're selling here the last several weeks that had some weight to them and got a good chance to make that April board for a hedge. If they weren't able to get them hedged then, maybe they can get it done now. But maybe they already hedged them earlier and it won't pull down on that market, which a lot of your other guys are hoping for. But look at your feeder cattle futures. January feeder cattle up just 7 cents at 141 even. That's still a premium to what our index levels are trading at. March up 27 cents at 142.60. You go out from there and they were down 20 cents to up 20 cents. But, you know, just a pretty decent trade on your feeder cattle futures to start this last week of 2020. You look at some of your other ag, you know, commodity futures markets. Corn was up around 5 cents, sitting out there, you know, at 456.5 on March. Your beans, you know, were down a little bit, but still over $12.50 a bushel for all your nearby. So that's pretty high up there, and a lot of people are thinking we're going to see a 5 on the front number of this corn, and we're going to see the beans go into the teens. So and that's a pretty widespread opinion of what's going to happen, and yet your cattle markets and even feeder cattle are holding as well as they are with people thinking that. But your weighted average on last week's negotiated fat cattle trade in your 5-area feeding region, 71,600 head. That's way more than we had either of the previous 2 weeks when we were in the 50 to 60,000 head range. Compare that to the previous week, it was 52,100 head. So pretty good week's movement anytime, especially during a holiday week and Christmas. That's the biggest of all holidays there. But that compares to a year ago of only 48,800 head, which was still pretty good movement for a holiday week there. But you look at your prices on live steers and heifers last week, and it was a short window of trade, a little bit off the market on Tuesday, and then everything traded on Wednesday. You know, that was pretty good trade there. It stretched from 104 to 110, but heavy on the high side. Just few weak sisters took that low side, and I don't know why you guys keep doing that. I'm telling you guys, get with one of your marketing cooperatives and sell your cattle more towards the higher end of the price range there. Just stop trying to do that yourself. You're not proving anything to anybody, and it's costing you. You know, check your pocketbook there. But your weighted average in that market, that live market, was $2 higher. So $2 higher because our market was $1.08 for the most part the week before. But your weighted averages, and like I said earlier, there were fewer cattle selling off the market. So your weighted average on live steers was 109.19. That's up $3.07 compared to the previous week's weighted average. So full tilt on your weighted average there. So that's a pretty good deal now. And that goes to show what you can do on a weighted average. And for all those guys that have those formula deals and they're going off those weighted average prices, or you're going in there on some type of a grid, they're like, yes, stop selling so many cattle off off the market there and keep those weighted averages up there, which is a lot of what they get paid off of, but it's mostly on the dress side. But on your dress steers and heifers, we had a wide price spread from 168 all the way to 176.50, and that was an outside deal on some heifers there, but for the most part it was 172. So our market was 172. That's $4 to $5 higher as a whole compared to your previous week there. But you do the weighted average on dress steers there, it's all the way up to 170, 180. I tell you what, in the Northern Plains, you don't get your weighted average price that close to your whole market number very often at all. And it's like I've been saying, fewer people had the opportunity to sell off the market. So you compare that weighted average price to the previous week's weighted average price on dress steers, it was up $6.51. That is huge. $4 to $5 higher market and the weighted average up $6.50. Your weighted average on dressed heifers was up $6.74 even. So I tell you what, we really had a monster market for any time, let alone a holiday week there. But nationwide, negotiated cash sales, 85,700 head. Your formula sales were 181,900, and you think, gosh, the cash sales pale in comparison, but actually that wasn't bad at all. That's as well as we've done as a percentage of the formula trade any time over the past year. But about 24% of them sold for the 15 to 30 day delivery, and you would expect that because we're in the midst of a kind of a slower slaughter rate during your holidays here, but it's also because your packers know this market is getting higher and they want to get as many cattle as they can bought at the current market for later delivery. Like, a lot of times they're buying those cattle trying to set things up for later because they're trying to get heavier supplies so they can pull back and hurt the market or drop the market later as we go forward when they think we're going into a down market. In this instance, they're trying to buy as many as they can because they know the market's going to get higher, guys. We're going to be, up here, going pretty strong in the teens here within just a week or two, maybe even this week. So that's going to be a good deal, and it's going to make our calf market better. It's going to make our yearling market better. It could even improve your cow market a little bit as we go forward. And I know that means a lot to guys because they've got cows to market here, salvage value cows. But your slaughter for last week was not as good as what we thought, and indeed they didn't end up slaughtering as many cattle as they typically do during the Christmas week holiday because it landed late in the week, and everybody knew they were going to give them Friday off for Christmas, and a lot of them closed down on Christmas Eve also. But 419,000, that was down 56,000 compared to the same week the year before. But what else is going on? I'm down here in South Texas, or I guess some of the locals may not consider this South Texas, but it's a long ways from my house, and I live, I don't even live in North Texas, I live in West Texas, the Texas Panhandle. It's farther north than North Texas, but us Texans, we got our directions and our regions of the state all screwed up. But down here in Brenham, Texas, going to be at a special replacement cow sale and heifer sale, and they've got several bulls on offer too at Cattleman's Brenham Livestock Auction in Brenham, Texas. Down here, can view and bid that sale on dvauction.com. I'll be taking bids on there, and it starts at noon Central Time. And then as soon as I get done with that sale, I'm gonna wrap up all the equipment and head over to Pearsall, Texas for Wednesday, and gonna do the same kind of a sale over there at Pearsall Livestock Auction on Wednesday. And you guys can view and bid that sale, and it starts at 11 a.m. Central. So, and if you guys are in the area, I hope you can make it over to the sale, because I'd like to see you and shake your hand. I'm not scared to do it yet. So let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV Auction. sitting at 139.18. That's up $2.47. It's the first time we've had any sales on there for several days. So if you got one of those National Beef Wire TVs, the scrolls were completely empty because they run for 24 hours, and even on the weekends we have stuff that goes up there from Saturday sales, but we ran completely out of stuff because we hadn't had any sales at all till we go back to Wednesday before Christmas, and then these sales that they had on Monday, which not a lot of them, but we did have some sales come in, and the markets on them, and there were strings at some of those sales that sold really, really well, and without a lot of cheaper plainer cattle and smaller lots selling to pull the average down, we saw a big increase in your index levels, and you'll see that on your CME cash feeder cattle index as soon as it catches up. But most of your auction markets were closed on Monday. In fact, this is the last feeder flash we're going to do for the year, so that's why I gave you guys a little bit of prognostication on the new year earlier in the start of the report. But the guys aren't going to be putting out a National Beef Wire newsletter the rest of the week, and we've got some things going on to end the year. So this is your last feeder flash for the year, even though we're going to start to have some sales here the rest of the week going forward. Although a lot of them, like down here in South Texas where I'm at, are going to be replacement type sales, because traditionally, your producers like to spend money at the end of the year for tax reasons. But, Oklahoma National Stockyards was closed on Monday. Joplin was closed on Monday. Russell didn't have a sale. A lot of your sales just didn't have, a sale at all. And a few Monday sales that sometimes we quote, they didn't have enough receipts there to really call anything out. But a couple of key sales that did have sales: Callaway Livestock Center, Kingdom City, Missouri. I told you that on the last visit that they were going to have a sale, and they did have a sale, and it was really good. So Jack Harrison and company there had 2,300 head at Callaway Livestock. And compared to 2 weeks ago, it was hard to kind of compare because they didn't have a lot of calves. It was kind of a yearling special, so didn't have calves to compare to, and didn't have yearlings the last sale 2 weeks ago to compare the yearlings to. So they just kind of called it higher undertone, but they had a lot of big strings on there, and a lot of big multi-draft strings weighed up there. And if you look at these that I pulled out of Cattle Market Central from DV Auction there, you can see these part loads and biggers, and bigger. A lot of them are square loads of these steers. I tell you what, there's some impressive sales on there for the Monday between Christmas and New Year's, because that's traditionally you just don't see any sales. But guys took an opportunity to sell, and I tell you what, guys were bidding on the cattle, and they sold really well. But you look at a couple of stick-out deals on there, or indeed some longer strings on there. It includes 116 head of 892, same as 900-pound steers at 140.10. That's a big price there. And then, of course, the last one there, 132 head of 800-pound steers on the button at 146.50, and that's $6.5 to $7 higher than what your index is on 800-pound steers for the nation. So that big quote. Another sale, that kind of a similar type sale they had up at Sioux Falls Regional Livestock in Worthing, South Dakota, had 2,100 head up there. Another really good sale. Similar trend. It was not very comparable to 2 weeks before, but had a higher undertone on there, and a lot of yearlings, including the highest quote that I saw anywhere to start the week out here on this holiday week. And it's your Zach Tran top quote for the day: 176 head, 1,016-pound big heavy feeder steers, 137 1/4. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.